Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing all things credit, how to get good credit, how to get out of bad credit, how to maintain your credit that you already have. And this was triggered because somebody asked me whether or not they should get a credit card if they want to improve their score. So credit is a game. Understand that. Them three little numbers, all the stuff that's in your report, it's all a game. It's all a game. You don't necessarily need credit in order to maneuver through life, but it's definitely beneficial if you have it, right? So there's two things that you need to do off top. When you're trying to figure out where you want to go credit-wise, you set a goal, like I want to be in the 700s, I want to be in the 800s. I mean, whatever your number is that you want to be at, fine. In order to do that, you need to know what your score is, and you need to know what's in your report. So you can do that two different ways. The first way, if you want to go the free route, you go to annualcreditreport.com. You're allowed to do this once a year, and it will take you through all three credit bureaus, right? It gives you step-by-step instructions. You go to each one, and it will give you your report. Now, it's not going to give you your actual FICO score. It's going to give you what's called a Vantage score. Now, some lenders use Vantage scores. You might use it for maybe a mortgage or for a car, but it's not a true FICO score. For the most part, annualcreditreport.com is just to tell you what's going on in your report. And let's start. This video is definitely not sponsored. This is just me because, I like dealing with credit. I like, all that good stuff. So I just thought I would share it with you in case people were wondering what they can do to build their score, things like that. So yeah, annualcreditreport.com. You go to it. Self-explanatory. You're going to have to go to each bureau separately through that website, if it makes sense. It'll make sense when you go on it, and it tells you everything that's in it. So you get to see all the good stuff you got going on, all the bad stuff you got going on. It's very detailed. It tells you when the bad stuff is going to fall off. And it also will let you know if somebody stole your identity and is out there acting like they're you, charging up stuff, whatever. The second route is the website that I use is myfico.com. Now, this is the website, and I'm going to tell you, this is the only website that gives you an actual FICO score. You can go to the bureaus themselves. You can go to TransUnion. You can go to Equifax. You can go to Experian. Those are not FICO scores. Those are what we call FACO scores, right? It's in the range. Or like if you got a subscription to maybe a place like Credit Karma or Credit Sesame, things like that. Those are not FICO scores. Those are FACO scores. Those websites are strictly to be used for just knowing what's in your report. The score may be kind of close to where you actually are, but 99% of the time, it's not. It's just a roundabout area because they're using, once again, what's called the Vantage score. So that's totally different from a FICO score. Has a different grading scale and all of that. You go to myfico.com. It is not free. I think the cheapest monthly one you can get, I want to say it's maybe like $20, but that $20 subscription is only going to give you one of the bureau. There are three. So in order for you to get all three, you're going to have to pay, I think it's $30 a month. And that will give you all three FICO scores off jump. And then every quarter, which is every 3 months, you'll get an updated report with, new scores and everything like that. It alerts you on a, daily basis, monthly basis, whatever. Whenever something changes in your credit, it will alert you. So like if one of your cards goes over the limit, or if an account got closed, or if something went into collections or you had a late payment, it's going to alert you right away. It's going to tell you which bureau it's on, and you can take care of it, however you need to take care of it. So annualcreditreport.com for your report. You can only do that once a year, and you can't be slick and try to do it more because they're going to know once you type the information in, it's going to block you and be like, oh, you can't do it again. Myfico.com is the other one. That's the one where you get your true FICO score. And you also get what's in your report, and it sends you alerts, all of that good stuff. Okay, the next one is another way you can get a true FICO score is by certain credit cards. But that is kind of like counterproductive because you got to be able to have the good credit, or at least decent credit, to get the cards so that you can get the score. So there's cards like American Express, Bank of America, Citibank, Barclays, those kind of cards. I think even Capital One. No, Capital One does what's called CreditWise. So that's kind of like, annualcreditreport.com, where it just tells you what's in your report. It will give you a score. Now, you will see a number, but again, that's not a FICO score. That's your FACO score. So keep that in mind. Barclays, American Express, Discover, Bank of America, those kind of cards, they give actual FICO scores. So if you don't get it through my FICO, you can get it through one of those credit cards. Typically, those cards only give one bureau, so keep that in mind. Like Barclays may only give you TransUnion, but you still don't know what's going on with Equifax and Experian. So you would either need to get another card, or you can just get a subscription to one of the platforms that I told you so that you can get the true score. Okay. Once you are in a position where you can get a credit card, I mean, and like I said, you don't have to have A+ credit in order to get a card. You don't have to have 750. You don't have to have an 800 score. None of that. You can get a credit card and, you know, you're in the fives. Your interest rate is going to be really high. Your interest rate is just like the interest rate on a car. You know, the lower your credit score is, the higher your APR is on a car. Credit cards are the same exact thing. So you can have a low interest rate that's like 5 or 6%, 3%, something like that. Or you might be really, really qualified and you can get 0% APR, but that's usually only for like a limited amount of time. For bad credit, you're going to be like in the double digits, high double digits, like 23, 29, something like that. I think that's the highest I've ever seen. And, you know, you figure out which kind of credit card you want. Make sure that you are able to get those cards, because what you don't want to do is go on what's called a credit card app spree and just start applying for stuff that you know that you don't have no business. Like if you know kind of where your score is at, right? If you know your score is in the low fives, don't be out here trying to get, you know what I'm saying, the elite of the elite of the elite credit cards, because you're going to get declined. And then what's going to happen is you're going to get what's called an inquiry. And that stays on your credit report for 2 years. It's not going anywhere, and it doesn't look good to other creditors who will look at your report and be like, oh, you was looking for credit, yada, yada, yada. And also it knocks down your score. It knocks down your actual FICO score. So wait until you are at that level to where you can try to get those high tier credit cards. If you're just starting out, or if you're rebuilding, I would suggest cards like Capital One, secured. You can go the secured route. A secured credit card is basically a card that it's a regular credit card. You can use it as such, but you front the money in the beginning. You put it up, right? So Capital One has one, Discover has one, Citibank has one, and American Express has one as well. So you just apply for it. You're gonna get approved because it's a secured credit card. You're the one who's putting the money. So whatever you put on that card is your credit limit. If you put $200 to open up that credit card account, your limit is $200. If you put $1,000, your limit is $1,000. After a certain amount of time, I'm going to say like maybe between 6 to 12 months, the credit card company on their own is going to just manually review your account to see if you're eligible for them to do what's called an unsecure. And what that is they turn it now into a real credit card, and they give you money as opposed to you having to constantly put money in to make your credit limit go high, because you can't do that. Whatever money you put on it from jump is what your credit limit is, and that's what it's going to stay. So again, you put the 200, that's your limit. When they choose to unsecure it, if they choose to unsecure it, they give you that $200 back, and then they turn it into a real credit card, right? So that's the cool thing. You don't lose your money, you get it all back. So you can definitely go that route. You pay your payments on time, you keep your balances low, your credit will build, it will build, it will build. Now, for people who just want to go straight into the credit cards, again, Capital One, they the OGs, okay? They approve people who have, like less than stellar credit or have, no credit. And, that's another thing that people need to pay attention to. Just because you have like, how do I say it? You have no credit, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just that you don't have anything there. Like students, for people, you know what I'm saying? Like 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, they have no credit. They have nothing. They don't have a home. They don't have a car, so they have nothing on their credit. So a lot of times they will get declined for cards off the strength that they don't have anything. I think I got my first credit card when I was in college. So yeah. And it was one of them crappy cards. It was definitely a starter card. I think my limit was like $300 or something like that. But then, I worked and I worked and I worked, and then, I got the big boys, and but I had a goal. I had specific cards I wanted. I wanted, the American Express Platinum. I got it. I wanted, I wanted those tier cards. So I did what I had to do to build my credit up, and I got those cards. I got them a lot sooner than I thought, which was great. So yeah, let's see. When you do get the cards, make sure to keep your balances low. The reason I say this is because you do not want to get in a situation where you can't pay that stuff back. Only charge what you can afford to spend. And really, the way that you should be looking at a credit card is like a rental, like a loan. It's not free money. People think that, especially for people who get credit cards that have no preset spending limit. They hear that and they think that, oh, that means that I could buy a house. Yeah, you can, but can you pay it back? That's the question. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't jam yourself up like that. No preset spending limit does not mean go out here and try to spend $1 million, because it's probably not even gonna go through. Even though they say it's a no preset spending limit, there's a limit on it. It's just kind of like a hidden limit, or an internal limit that they use, right? Yeah, so don't get caught up in that. Only charge what you can afford to pay back, because every 30 days you have to pay that bill just like every other bill. And when you don't, whatever your interest rate is, you're going to get charged for that interest rate. And it's just going to keep rolling over and rolling over and rolling over. And then that's how you hear people who wound up in like thousands and thousands of dollars of debt. And you're like, how? That's how. Because when they first get it, they're like, oh, let me just go buy a pair of kicks real quick. Okay, $100, $200, whatever the case may be. They don't have the money to pay it when the next check hits, or, you know, when the bill is due. So they was like, all right, I'll just pay it out of the next one. I'll let it roll over. So now that $200 acquired some interest, and now maybe it's like $220 or $230, right? Your minimum payment might only be $25. So that $25 is going to only go to the interest, right? It's not going to go to the principal. So that principal's still sitting there, and it's going to just keep rolling over and rolling over. Understand that whatever payment you make always goes to the interest first. The higher your interest rate, the more of what you pay goes to the interest. If you have a low APR, like 0, then that $25 monthly payment that you're doing, that's going to go to the principal. So that will chop your balance down. But if you have an interest rate where it's like 23% and you're paying $25, where do you think that $25 is going to? Straight to that interest. It's not touching that principal. So that principal, she's still right there. So you're still owing that $200. So understand how that breaks down. $200 is not a lot of money. But if it keeps rolling over, it can then turn into $240, then $300, then $400. And you're like, damn, how did I get here? You know what I'm saying? And then you can't pay that back. So don't jam yourself up. Another point to remember is if you have multiple credit cards, when it comes to balances, I guess you could say for the optimal score, for like getting the best scores, is you don't, like, let's say you have 4 credit cards. You don't want all 4 credit cards to report a balance. You only want one of them. You only need one of them to report a balance. And that balance needs to be like 9% of your total credit limit. Okay, so like, let's say on all 4 of your cards, your total credit limit is like, I don't know, $5,000 combined. So only 9% of that is what should be reporting. Because what that does is it shows that your utilization is low, right? So you just rotate the cards. Because if you don't use the credit cards, after a certain amount of time, they will shut them down. And it's not because you did anything wrong. It's just that they're like, she's not using them, he's not using them. We're not making any money off of them in interest. So what's the point in having a card open? We're just going to close them. That does not look good on your credit when you have a card that was closed by the creditor. Now, if you close it, it looks a little bit better, but you still want to be careful about that, because you don't want to go around closing cards, especially a card that you've had the longest. Like if you've had a card for 10 years and then you've only had a card for 2 weeks, that 2 weeks is the one that you want to close. The one you have for 10 years, leave that chick open. I don't care if you only charge a pack of gum every 2 months on it. Leave it open, because that shows history. So there are certain factors that equate to making your credit score. You have the length of time you've had credit. You have what's called the credit mix. That means do you have installation loans, right? Like student loans, that's an installation loan or whatever. Do you have revolving loans like credit cards or a card, things like that, mortgage? Do you have what is it? How many inquiries you have, your payment history, how you pay, all of that mixed in together forms your credit score. So the lower those numbers are, the higher your credit score is going to be. So if you close something that's been open for 10 years, that chops off 10 years worth of credit history. You no longer have that. So the creditors have nothing to gauge you on, but you only have this one card that you had open for 2 weeks. To them, it looks like, okay, this person only has had credit in their name for 2 weeks. So they don't know how to handle a credit card that has like a $50,000 limit on it. So no, we're going to just decline their application. They're not getting approved. But if you had that one open for 10 years still, and it's showing a positive history, payments, you were never late, nothing like that, then I'm like, oh, this person, they can handle credit. They know what they're doing. So let's go ahead and approve the application. So it's all a game. It's definitely all a game. And every 30 days, when you get that, you may or may not get a new credit score every 30 days, because your score only changes if things in your report change, right? You get something good happening in your report, your number's going to go up. On the other side, if something bad happens in your report, you get a late payment, you get a charge off, you get a collection, that's negative stuff, that's going to bring your score down. So when that changes, you have the very next month to bring it right back up again, because certain things don't hurt your score that much. Okay, collections hurt your score. Bankruptcies hurt your score. Inquiries hurt it temporarily, but inquiries, because they fall off after 2 years, they don't really have that much of an effect. And after that first year, the effect is even less. But stuff like I said, bankruptcies and collections and charge off, that kind of stuff stays on your report for 7 to 10 years. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be right there. So really, really pay attention to what's going on in your report. Pay attention to your spending, because at what age of 20, you can have, X amount of cards, thinking you hot stuff, spending all this money. And then, now we at like 25, 26, and we're like, oh, I want to buy a house. 27, I want to buy a house, but I got a bankruptcy on there, or I have a collection on there. It's not to say that you won't get approved for that mortgage, but your chances are going to be, harder to do so. You can get approved, but you're absolutely going to have a high APR, a high interest rate on that house. So it goes back to the credit cards. That means if your mortgage is like, I don't know, $1,500, but your interest rate is like 25, majority of that $1,500 payment that you're making is going to your interest, which makes the principal stay there a lot longer for the total cost of the house. Okay, so we want to keep that utilization low. Only let one card report at a time. Another tip is when it comes to lates, because I mentioned late stay on your credit for 7 years, that's only once it hits your report. If your credit card payment is due on the 20th of the month and you pay it on the 25th, your credit card company, not the company, but the bureau is not going to know about it, because in theory, it's only 5 days late. In order for something to get reported as negative on your credit, it has to be 30 days late. That is the minimum that it could be. They will not report you if it's 25, 26, 27. Has to be 30 days. So they have 30, 60, 90, and 120 days. Once you get to 120 days, you might as well just throw the card away, because they done charged you off anyway. They took that as an L, and that's going on your report. 7 years, deal with it. Same thing with 90 days. So if you feel yourself getting to that point to where like, oh, it's almost 30 days, call them up and just, see what you can do. Call them up and see what you can do. Hold on one second, y'all. Had to take a call. Okay, so where was I? If your credit card bill is due on the 24th and you don't pay it until the 28th, you're totally fine with that. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to get a late fee from the credit card company themselves. And usually the late fee is like $39, $35, somewhere in that area. But it's not going to report to the actual credit bureau until it hits 30 days late. So keep that in mind. You have time. You don't have to worry about it, messing up your credit just because you're like 3 or 4 days late. It's not that big a deal. Nothing's going to happen to you other than that late fee from the credit company. The credit company. And it's a one-time fee. Well, as many times as you late. If the next month you late again, you're going to get another late fee. So try to keep those down to a minimum, and they absolutely tack on to the principal. That late fee tacks on to the principal. Okay? Now, when it comes to asking for increases, right? So when you first get a credit card, depending on where your credit is at the time, they give you a certain limit. $300, $500, $20,000, whatever the case may be. Whatever your limit is, they gave it to you for a specific reason, and they're going based off of your score and things that are actually in your report. So it's not always what your score is, and a lot of people confuse that. Like if they're trying to get a car, or if they're trying to get a house, or even another credit card, they think that, oh, if I have a 700, but why didn't I get approved? Or why is my APR so high? You can have a high score and have an empty report. Not empty, but have a very small report or short history. That's another reason why people would decline you. And on the flip side, you can have a stacked report and have a low credit score. Right? So there's a lot of variables in there that will determine whether or not you get approved for what and how high your interest rate is going to be. So let's just say you get a credit card and it's only $300. That's usually the starting limit for people who have newer credit or less than perfect credit. $300 card, you keep it, you pay it well for like 6 months, you pay it well for a year, and now the time comes you want to ask for an increase. No problem. You can do one of two ways. You can call them up and ask for it, or you can just click the button online where it says request increase and cross your fingers, see what happens. You have to be careful with that because you have to know which credit cards do what's called a soft pull and which credit cards do what's called a hard pull on your report. So a soft pull is the same thing as you or me checking our own credit. It doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't knock your score down. It doesn't do anything to you. A hard report or a hard inquiry shows up on your report when a creditor or someone like that is trying to pull your credit, right? If you're trying to apply for a house or you're trying to apply for a car, things like that, that's when your credit gets pulled. So there are some credit card companies that when you already have them and you want to get an increase, they'll do it off of a soft pull so that it does not affect your overall score. Off the top of my head, I know Capital One does soft pull increases. They allow you to do it every 6 months. Now, you can press that button every day if you want to, but they not going to entertain you at all until 6 months have passed. So 6 months comes, they give you increase for 1,000, boom. You wait another 6 months, you click that button. If you're eligible, they'll give you another whatever, okay? Soft pulls only. It's not going to hurt your score. You can press it 20 times in one day if you want to. It's not going to do anything at all. I'll give you an example of one who is a hard pull. That is, I believe, is Discover and like Citibank. That's going to be a hard pull. And they let you know. So they will tell you. They'll say, okay, we have to, pull your credit. It gives you some kind of disclaimer on the bottom if you're doing it online. And if you're calling in, they'll tell you that, okay, we have to obtain your credit report. Do you give us permission? That's letting you know right there it's going to be a hard pull. You can do that at your own risk. It still doesn't mean that if you do a hard pull that you're going to get approved for an increase. So keep that in mind. You would just be wasting another inquiry, which is then going to stay on your credit for another 2 years. Right? And that's the bad part about it. So you can get that inquiry and not get that increase. And then it's like you wasted it for no reason. You have to wait 2 years before it falls off. Another thing that people should remember is like you always get those mailers that come in the mail, right? Those solicitations like, oh, you're pre-approved, you're pre-selected, we invite you to apply. Those say 3 different things. And I'm going to break down to you what each of those things mean. So you get one that says we invite you to apply. That basically means, listen, we gave this to anybody. We just gave it to Boo Boo the Fool walking down the street. Doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with you. They don't know you. They didn't pull anything on you. They may or may not approve you. Again, it's a gamble. It's a game. But it's not directed towards you. If you got one that says you are pre-selected to apply. Pre-selected means they 90% of the time did a soft pull on your credit. If your credit file is open, I'll explain what that means later. If your credit file is open, they did a soft pull on you where it doesn't knock your score down like I spoke about, but it's enough to give them a general idea of, okay, this person exists, right? This person has credit and it looks all right. It looks a little all right. So you know what? We'll pre-select you. So they give you a little invitation code. You call in or you send it back through the mail or you do it online. You enter that code in because that code is specific to you. Again, does not mean that you will get approved. Does not mean that you're going to get denied. It just means that like, hey, now it's targeted towards Star. Now this is for Star. This is not like an invitation to apply, even though they're both kind of the same because they're still inviting you to apply. But you have to pay attention to the verbiage on the envelope. Invited to apply, anybody. Pre-selected means they chose you specifically. Okay? The last one, you are pre-approved. Pre-approved means you 99% of the time you're going to get approved. That means they did a thorough check. Still with the soft pull. But the difference is, if you look, I wish I had one to show you, but I don't. If you look at when you get those invitations, the one that says pre-approved, at the very bottom or on the back, there's going to be like a long rectangle box. And in the box, it's going to say opt in, opt out, pre-screen, If you see that, it's yours. You got it. You're approved. It's already done. All you got to do is just basically call and accept it. I've never been personally declined whenever I got that box on the bottom, and that's probably why I got like 30-something credit cards. But that's another story. So when you get that box, that basically means that they completely vetted your credit report. They looked straight through it. They didn't just do a little computer glance. They went all the way through it. They saw what they liked, and you good. You Gucci, right? Go get your money, get your credit, do what you got to do. When you get the one that says you are pre-selected, you usually don't have that credit disclaimer on the bottom, that box. Because even though they checked your credit, they didn't do like a thorough check. They just kind of like, like when you apply for a job, the computer looks for keywords. That's basically what a pre-select is. So earlier when I spoke about as long as your credit report is open, they can find those things. That's the only way that you're going to get it pre-approved with that little box at the bottom is if your credit is open. When I say open, I mean that your credit report is not frozen. So I personally keep my credit report, all three of them. I keep them frozen. And the reason I do that is because of identity theft. If your report is frozen, somebody can no longer gain access to your accounts or to your credit to be able to open up accounts in your name. If your credit report is open or unfrozen, throw it out, whatever you want to call it, they have access, right? All a hacker has to do is get your social security number. And it's easy. Once they have that, it's easy for them to find out like your date of birth, your mother's maiden name, those standard questions that they always, it's easy for them to find that kind of information if they're really, really good at their job of being a hacker. They can get that information. Once they have the information, they open up all kinds of accounts on your name. And if they're smart enough to keep those accounts in good standing, you will never be the wiser. You won't ever know that you have a house in Honolulu somewhere. You just won't. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not getting any alerts that's saying anything is late or something is past due or something went into collections because they're staying up on it. You know, so I keep mine frozen. And it's very simple. It's free to unfreeze. Depending on where you live, there might be a charge for you to unfreeze it. Right? And you can do it in one of two ways. So you have to go to each individual website. You can either call or you can do it on the phone. I don't really like talking to people all the time, so I just go straight to the website. Experian.com, TransUnion.com, Equifax.com. You can take it a step further to make it easy and type in TransUnion credit freeze. You click that, it will automatically take you to TransUnion. You create an account, fill in your info, and they give you the option, freeze my account, unfreeze it if it's already frozen, things like that. You choose freeze. It's going to ask you, do you want this to be permanent or do you want it to be temporary? Permanent means exactly what it says. It means your account is frozen until you say it's no longer frozen. Temporary means I'm going to pick a certain range. Like I'm going to pick, February 4th until February 6th. That's how long I want that freeze to stay on there. Once the 6 comes, it's going to automatically unfreeze. You don't have to call back in or you don't have to go back online and do anything. It automatically goes right back in. So you do each of those things on each 3 websites. And I keep mine permanently frozen unless I want to open it if, I need to get a cell phone or something and I know somebody needs to check my report, or I am trying to get a credit card, or I am trying to get an increase, something like that, to where I know a creditor needs to see my report and they can't get to it. They don't have the access. If you try to apply for anything and your credit is frozen, you're going to get denied. Off top, you're going to get denied. And you're not getting denied because it's bad. You're getting denied because it's closed and they can't see it. So if they can't see it, they can't judge you on anything, and they're just going to straight out deny you. And they ain't going to think twice about it. And then you're going to have an inquiry and you're like, oh my God. So if you know you're going to apply for something and you know your credit is frozen, unfreeze it. Take it a step further. Find out which bureau they check. That way you don't have to unfreeze all 3 of them. You could just unfreeze one. If you know, like if you had a car dealer and he tells you we pull TransUnion, unfreeze your TransUnion. It's 2 seconds. You go online, you unfreeze it. They ask you the same questions. You want to do a permanent, unfreeze, or do you want to just temporarily lift the freeze? Choose temporary, because you're not going to be at the car dealership forever. You're going to be there for, a couple of hours. You may go to another dealership the next day. So let it stay open for like 2 days, right? 2 days. You put the date on there. Once that date comes around, it's going to automatically just lock itself back up. That way, that dealership now has access to your credit, but you gave them that access. So you know what this is about. If you see it on your credit, you won't be surprised. Okay, and each one usually gives you like a pin, like this long pin, and you type that in, and then that's how you can, manage it. I do it all the time. Not all the time. I do it when I know I need to apply for something, and I know they need my credit. I'll just, log in, boom, 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 type in my info, get it, unfreeze it, and then I usually let it stay open for like 2-3 days, depending on what I'm doing, and then it just locks back up automatically. Easy peasy. What else can I tell you guys about credit? Just be smart about it, and don't get it twisted. Don't think that you have to have credit, right? Credit is great to have, but you don't need it. Cash is always king. Keep that in mind. Cash is always king. You're going to be able to get whatever you want as long as you have that green to pay for it. You do not need plastic to pay for it. It's nice and it helps, but you don't necessarily need it. Now, when the time comes that you maybe want to get a car or you want to get a house and you never had a credit card in your life, it's going to be a little difficult for you. And again, it's not because your credit is bad. It's because your credit is minimal. It's small. There's nothing in there. So they don't know how to judge you. So if you know that you're going to be the type of person to say, hey, I'm going to want to get a car later on in life, or I know I want a house, or I know, like, you know, I don't know, just whatever, you may have to get a credit card. But you don't have to run out and get 20 of them. Get one, maybe two, you know, just backup, emergency. Put something recurring on there. Put like your gym membership, $15, $20. Put that on there and let it just auto pay. You know, recurring charge. That way it's showing activity on your credit report that is being used, and then it's on auto pay, so then you don't have to worry about paying it. It's good. There's no late fees, there's no none of that kind of stuff. You know, as I said, credit is a game, and it's not a game that you necessarily have to play, but if you are going to play it, you better learn the rules. I'm telling you, best to learn the rules, because once you get certain things on there, it's hard to get it off. And yeah, you can go to those card companies or those debt consolidation companies that you always hear on the radio, you know, and they can take off certain bad things, but at the same time, I'm gonna tell you something. The same things that you're paying them to take off, you can get taken off for free. If you know how to do it, and if you just wait, because they're gonna fall off anyway. So why pay somebody $300, $400, $500, $600 to try to get a late taken off or a collection taken off that's going to fall off anyway? Everything bad on your report will fall off. It's just that it takes time for some of the stuff to come off. Some of the stuff will fall off early. It just depends on when the people feel like releasing it. Some things have to stay on there for a mandatory amount of time. Now, by all means, if you want to go through one of those agencies and have them work, that's fine. But you can also study and just learn how to do it yourself. My FICO, another great place. Like I said before, it's not just for getting your scores and getting your reports. It also, there's a whole community on there, people who talk about different situations that they go through regarding bankruptcies, getting new credit. They tell you like which card they tried to apply for, which card pulls which bureau. Like, it's so much information. It's a dope website. Again, not sponsored. It's just I've been using that company for years. Dope company, dope system. You know, it's a lot of information on there. Just go and read. It's free. Well, it's free to read all the information, but if you want to have the actual service to where it pulls your report and your scores, you have to pay for that. But to just go on there and get the info, that's free. All day, every day. All day, it will tell you what to do if you just filed for bankruptcy. It will tell you how to file for bankruptcy. It has the agencies, different agencies. They even have backdoor numbers. I have that list. You know I got that list. A backdoor number is where you call for a credit card if you want to get an increase and you've already been told no. You also can use the backdoor number if you've applied for a credit card and you've been told no. You call them numbers and you listen. There's so many tricks with the credit. It is fun. To me, it's fun. Like, I know, for instance, one, Discover, right? You ask for an increase and they tell you no. Or no, I'm sorry. You ask for an increase and they give it to you online. There is a backdoor number that you can call. You got to call the same day and you can get more money. And it's all legit. It's not, it's all legit. I'm telling you, I enjoy it. I picked up on it real fast. I enjoy anything credit. So any questions you guys have, feel free to ask me. You can, send me a message. And I hopefully, I helped somebody with something. Hopefully I touched on, all the areas of questions that people would have, general questions. But definitely drop them down in the comments below if you guys want to know anything else. I'm not going to call myself a credit guru, but I'm very, very knowledgeable about it. And that's only because I just found it interesting. And, for me, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to increase my credit, So I taught myself. I educated myself on what I need to do to be able to get the cards that I want, to be able to get to do what I wanted to do. But again, you don't need credit. It's nice to have, but you don't need it. You need cash. That's what you need. Okay? But yeah, it's nice to fall back on credit cards if you need it. But don't be like me. Don't go and get no little 30 cards. I got that from my grandmother. My grandmother had 33 and I had 30, so she had me beat. That's all right though. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and we're gonna catch up later. Bye.